Here I am in my office, stretching on the yoga mat on my floor between my bookshelf and desk. I wanted to preface this with that because it gives you an idea of how lax I'm being. I have no script in front of me, just my phone placed on the floor as I do so. This is an attempt to speak in the raw about thoughts on my mind. And there will be times where I'll have a script. There'll be times where I edit things, but as I've been very inspired by Manly Hall, just looking into the air and being able to pull from the archives of his mind these thoughts, that I will say I am no Manly P. Hall. I'm like a finger painting compared to a beautiful mosaic or surrealism as it pertains to my ability and what I have archived in my mind versus his. That said, here goes my simplistic rant for today that I'm going to be ballsy enough to actually post. So, I have been living with my dear best friend, who I am the most comfortable living with and have lived with longer than any siblings or parents or any adult on earth. We moved out at 16 together, our first time, and we have traveled abroad together. And I have had such a paradoxical life as it pertains to the buildings that I've lived in. And with that notion at the front of my mind, I see people who strive to have these luxuriously huge homes, and I cannot stress enough that it's not worth it. It's not worth it. No, the two largest homes that I lived in were 6,700 square feet, and I dare say 17,000 square feet. One was in Mass and one was in Connecticut. But I also had my hands full with my estate in upstate New York, in Saratoga Springs area, like 3.5 miles from downtown Saratoga Springs. I think I'll include pictures of these homes to garner perspective. So anyway, I was really happy in some of my homes, and it took me hindsight and my adulthood to actually appreciate the one that I grew up in as a child, because there were a lot of dark dynamics that as a child contending with was difficult, but the hindsight and the silver lining of that is that I watched my adopted mom rescue children, including myself at that time, and that my adopted mom and her daughters, who are her biological daughters, unlike the adopted black sheep heathen that I happen to be, are my parents' age. And I have grown a deep respect and appreciation so much for my parents through them. I actually have learned to forgive and understand and know how much of a selfless act it is to decide that you're not capable mentally, emotionally, spiritually of raising your child, but to still be there, meaning like visit and stuff. So when I first broke free from that home and I moved down to Tampa and into a condo with 2 swimming pools and racquetball courts and in a safer neighborhood, I thought I was golden. And that didn't last very long, because it's like a picture frame, you know, it's just the exterior aspect that people see. For instance, my worst time ever was in the largest of those homes that I described in Connecticut. That was absolute hell. I had to do the rescuing that time, and it was one of those situations where if I left for 2 hours or longer, I would come back to a complete catastrophe. I understand now what those tactics were being used against me at that time, I'm just glad that I'm out of there, and I appreciate life from a more sober and humble perspective as a result of it. But suffice it to say, homes are just a lot of work. When Bart and I lived on the beach, which was amazing, we lived in a little shack on the water. It was a 3-bedroom house. We were 19 at that time and working in the restaurant industry and raising little Trinity. And we had a sunset view every night. We had a fenced-in backyard with a octagon table that sat 10 and a swing set, slide, seesaw, all of the works for Trinity, and we utilized as well. And in the front, we had hibiscus trees and an orange tree that was 3 stories high, and we'd go onto our roof and we'd take the oranges and sword fight on there. It was a lot of fun. And we could go swimming in the canal, and we had an 11 o'clock view of the sunset, the Gulf of Mexico, and it was a cul-de-sac neighborhood, so I picked that on purpose so we could teach Trinity how to ride her bike, her power wheel, we could rollerblade. There's no traffic, so. And most of the people on that street were elders, and they looked at Bart and I like we were their grandchildren, which was also fucking wonderful. So in my early 20s, I got into a relationship with somebody who had a bigger house in Palm Harbor, and then it became half the week at my house, half the week at his. And then my little home started to feel like a lot more work because I was bouncing back and forth between work and 2 homes. But it was all right because the one in Palm Harbor was very modern, and I think it was only 2,200 square feet, something relatively modest compared to what I've been used to. And so all the amenities were brand new. It didn't require too much maintenance, albeit when we were in New York, something ate through the wall while we were gone, so it still required somebody to be there more often than we were. And once we bought our estate in New York, we were in the Adirondacks, so we were at exit 16 and 87, so exit 15 was Wilton and Saratoga. If you went further north, you had a ski resort, an indoor water park, and Lake George. And when I say further north, I don't mean having to extend beyond 30 minutes. And if you were to drive 30 minutes south, you'd be in Albany, which is kind of a shithole, but not too bad. It has a Cheesecake Factory and a Sephora, so there's that. And an okay music scene, I'll give it that as well. But that home in New York was so much work. I should say because I was only working a few days a week, beyond writing my book and bartending at a place called Shepherd's Cove, which I actually got my bartending license to do so that I could stop sitting on the outside of the bar and start sitting on the inside and intermingling with the locals, which I did, and it was a great time. And I didn't make any friends at that time that I kept, but I did meet a lot of very interesting people, and I got along with everybody from the work staff to most of the people that came in there. A lot of old money in there, and a lot of swingers trying to get me on their yachts, but I was married, so there was that, and I was faithful. But Lake George was great. There was a wax museum, an arcade, and just a whole plethora of amazing things to do. And Saratoga could be a little snobby, but it was a very clean city, beautiful artwork, and nice shops, and a very, very calm climate. The culture was very slow paced, and a lot of beautiful homes, including my own at that time, surrounding that area. But I painted the kitchen, and we did granite, and I think the floor was like 350 square feet, just the kitchen alone, so we did half tile, half wood floors. We changed the lighting. We did a complete $150,000 overhaul in that kitchen, just a complete remake of it, and that was a lot of work. And I love climbing, and so I painted some of the decals because it was an Italianate Victorian, and so there were beautiful decals on the outside of it. It looked kind of like a frosty wedding cake, so adding that little punch of black made it so beautiful. And we had 5.5 acres of frontage alone, not just the land in the back that horseshoed our house, and I think there was like 18 acres of wooded lands behind our house. And we had one neighbor on the same side of the street, and we were at a nice distance, a very nice distance from one another. And then there was pretty much a campground and some amazing Canadians across the street. But it was a pretty vacant neighborhood, and so I spent most of my time just working on the house. I painted and built, I did a foyer, a kitchen, 3 bedrooms I painted. I left the other 2 alone. We redid the bathroom in the master bedroom. It was just a ton of work, and it came out absolutely gorgeous. And I ended up moving and spending 8 months in Worcester with my dad per the separation with my husband, and just leaving all that work for him and spending time where I felt safe with my family and friends for 8 months. Then I ended up moving to that obnoxiously large house in Woodstock, and I have to say that because it was not finished, meaning the building was not finished, I stepped into a shit fest of construction. I learned how to use a lot of heavy equipment, and I got to climb up and practice kicks and hanging off staging, and I get to enjoy some of the pleasantries that come along with construction. But what ended up happening was, after spending years fixing one house and making it nice on the water, the one with Bart and I, then fixing up the one in Palm Harbor, making it nice, and moving to New York and really getting involved in it because that house was in my name. I wasn't renting or living with somebody else. I put so much fucking work into it. And because of the fact that this one was under construction and in a state of metamorphosis, and I'm a curious bitch and I enjoy learning how to do things, and because I wanted to expedite the process so I could live in a peaceful environment where you're not hearing nails all fucking day long being hammered into your head, I got very heavily involved. So when I left, which felt like I knitted a sweater meticulously between the legalities in that situation, the land of which I inspired thousands of trees to be planted, and partook in learning to use the excavator so I could plant them myself, and found a nursery that would have thrown out some of the defective trees and saved them. I was burnt the fuck out, and I couldn't wait to move in with my best friend where I am right now. This is a 3-story house, and I restored the basement so I could crouch in here and find my peace. And very unfortunately, now that I've finished healing, and because Trinity needs to be somewhat on her own, as it's my job as a parent to teach her to fly out of the nest, I am instead flying out of the nest and leaving what I restored to her with the graces of her godfather upstairs, and them contractually working out things that are advantageous for the two of them. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And it's been 20 years of houses, fixing them and restoring them, and in some cases the houses being more of a job than my actual jobs. And that is certainly the case with this one. I thought because this was a smaller house that wouldn't be the case, but trying to make my area habitable, and because it's an older house and required a lot of upgrades, It was a lot more than I thought it would be. So my next part of my journey is to actually just get my real estate license, because I have some land I'd like to sell, and I'd like to not have to pay anyone else to do it. And I would like to purchase a new home and get my feet wet in regards to what type of new home I want. But in the interim, I don't think I can stay in this house for longer than another 8 months, because I require windows, I require privacy. I'm in a relationship now, and I want to expand our horizons and be able to run around naked. Now, we can, in our section of the house, do that. There's a very respectful code in this house as it pertains to giving each other our space. My best friend and his husband are on the 3rd floor, 3 bedrooms, a bathroom. We have a living space that we all share that includes a dining room and a living room and a spiritual room and bathroom and kitchen. And then 4 rooms over is where my offspring resides, and then we have a living room between us, a second living room. We call it Zen Den, which is all black and white. Then we have a multifaceted office that has everything, a little breakfast nook, a little tea area, and then a huge bedroom that really does fit quite a bit of furniture. And it looks great, save for the fact that I feel like I am in a sarcophagus because there isn't enough windows. Now, this is coming from a vampire who really doesn't do sunlight too much. I can't even believe I'm hearing myself say this. I want something small. Of course, I have a hard time grasping what small actually is, but my idea of modest and what would be great for the time that I'm getting my real estate license and I'm going into these homes and I'm assessing precisely what I want, which might take a year or two, to get a condo, to get a fucking condo, something like what I had when I lived in Tampa. Just, if something breaks, call the landlord, have it fixed. A place that I won't feel compelled to paint and to remodel, because that's not something you can do. And so I'll have to force myself to avert the temptation, the artistic temptation, to carve it into a whimsical piece of art. As even the house in Connecticut, the staircase had a mural from bottom to top, per my request, and then we built a theater and a waterfall and greenery hot tub area, which I made a space spa here in the garage too, so there's a hot tub and art room there. But I've essentially turned these homes into kind of museums, and that's great. I think if I move into a condo or an apartment for a year or so, it'll give me the clarity, the blank canvas, or maybe even the incentive to paint on canvases instead of my fucking walls. That would be great. So yes, that's what I'm thinking, is people, they really do, they strive to have these expensive cars, and I'm like, why? I understand good quality, and there's a gray area as it pertains to that. Like, I like Lexus, for instance. It's a upper middle class car, but it's reliable, and you don't have to import the parts from Germany or Italy in order to repair the fucking thing. So that's the gray area that I found with that. It's nice to have nice things, but those people who are, and not to be mistaken with hedonistic, but hedonic treadmill, that's something that a lot of people don't know about. Those who are caught on that, I feel so much empathy for them, because breaking free from that, which being with around and part of the 1% as well as poverty-stricken, I've spent just as much time rich as I have poor. And something that I noticed about wealthy people is that they are addicted to complacency, they are paranoid, and some of them really do think that these superficialities matter, and I don't. And being with somebody who's really like that is like smoking a carton of bullshit cigarettes that pollutes your lung forever. You almost want to become a minimalist, but instead, as I try to do, I found a fucking gray area. But having the castle and having the mansion is not where it's at. It really fucking isn't. You have two choices. Either one, you have to hire somebody to come in and invade your privacy, be in your personal space, to take care of it. Or two, you have to take care of it yourself, and I assure you that that's more fucking work than having a full-time job in some cases, and it's truly not worth it. It is not fucking worth it. If you value your time and you have the money, I think traveling is where it's at. You putting more money into the circulation and the economy of the places that you visit, first of all. Second of all, you are leaving the work and the money that ensues to those areas, and you can just enjoy yourself and really relish in the environment without the work. For instance, I would rather rent a yacht than purchase one. And I would rather visit a beautiful hotel. For instance, I love going to Las Vegas and hotel bouncing. You go to the Bellagio, I've been to MGM Grand, and the Venetian's my favorite. And you go there, you enjoy yourself, and you leave. You don't have to pay more than the time it takes to enjoy yourself at those places. So, until I find a house that I know is not going to be a lot of work, because I will require that ability to carve it into my own, and until I find one that is the least amount of work and the least expensive, which I will surely be able to do once I have my real estate license and I'm assessing every fucking home for what it is, I won't just be selling other people on these things, but I will also be taking heed so that I can learn what the hell I want to move into. But where it's at is a nice 2-3 bedroom house, enough land to have a garden, maybe the ability to take yourself off the grid, to have a Sprinter or an SUV or something where you can jump into your car and go on road trips, to put a big enough down payment on a house where no matter what type of job you have or what kind of recession befalls this country, you're okay. And even if you have to live with several people in the house, you could take the whatever luxurious things you put in those 2 extra rooms and fill it with people, and then live as you need, giving somebody else a place to reside and giving yourself the ability to split the bills 1/3. I just believe that that's where it's at, and I don't see anything good about grandiosa lifestyle beyond, traveling and enjoying it temporarily and coming back to semi-modest settings. Now, I wouldn't be a minimalist. I found that I wouldn't want more than I have, save for replacing technology when it goes, or if I need to replace my clothes, things like that. But I have exactly the amount of things that I want. I'll probably add art supplies, books, and knives and masks occasionally to that collection, but save for those things, I don't want more than I have, and I don't want more than I have for the rest of my life. I'm completely here right now, and what I have could easily fit into a 2-bedroom house, and the 3rd bedroom would be fantastic if I could utilize having an office as well as a guest room. Great. But I mean this. After living in really big houses, you are a fucking slave to them. It is not worth it. So if there is anybody out there and they're looking to score a big home and park 12 cars in front of it, do you. If that's your thing, do you. I think that the Kardashians and these fucktards that are really being utilized as the faceplate for worshiping the hedonic treadmill have gotten people really fucking confused. And this whole Disney princess castle bullshit has also gotten people really fucking confused. And this level of grandiosa, it's like there's an equilibrium for everything, and I believe wholeheartedly in the law of compensation. So those who think that they need those things, they are not the type of people who would probably resonate very well. The kinds of things that I need are love, trustworthy people in my vicinity, animals, great vibes, creativity, and culture. And culture, to me, it's just a subjective term, but in the form of culinary arts and being able to taste different seasonings and oils and so on and so forth, music, and all kinds of music that help generate different types of atmospheres and moods, and books. The eclecticism on my bookshelf is outrageous, and you can tell I look like I practically eat my books. I destroy them when I read them, and they're not in good condition, but they're definitely great reads. So, I mean, I have in front of me right now, as I'm stretching, one shelf that is completely theology, philosophy, well, mythology, if you will, and then one that's all about organics, like the essence of gemstones and herbs, and things of nature, like hidden messages in waters, and the hidden life of trees, things that really connect you to nature. But then just below that, it's all horror fiction. And below that, it's the arts and man, or the arts throughout the ages, and fables of Leonardo da Vinci's, and the paintings of Salvador Dali, sex and love, and Notre Dame, and the memoirs of Cleopatra, shit like that. Like, there is no genre fucking that I haven't traversed that I don't like, and that's my idea of culture. And guess what? All of my books fit in my little office. And if they don't, then that's okay. I can donate to other people and replace the ones that I've already read 10 times, or I can share when my friends and I have a great barter system with books. I don't think anybody really needs, if they really, really break it down to what they truly desire, what they truly fucking love, and it's not, this is not for the grandiosa worshippers. It's not. It really fucking isn't. But if you can set that whole idea aside and just say, well, if I want a Ferrari, I'm going to go rent one when I'm in Las Vegas. I don't need to have a garage full of fucking cars collecting dust, because if you're renting that car in Las Vegas, you're giving that business money and you're spending less, and you're not paying to fucking store, not paying to store or fix or insure those fucking things. So everybody wins that way. And yes, so I think that's what I'm going to do. Get a condo. Something that I will have to avert painting and putting my fingerprint on, and just the cleaning and the bare minimum, while I'm going into houses for a year and a half and making money selling them, making money hopefully on my books and podcasts as well, God willing, and really figuring out what is the least amount of work, the most economic, the most relaxing, the most peaceful, and what will best suit both the aesthetic that I desire, the atmosphere that I can retire, and God forbid if I ever need to take care of somebody and have a room for them. That's my thoughts on this. Now I've got to actually do my paperwork, but that's it. And anyone out there who has any ideas of moving or buying a home, I'll be here for you really soon, and I'll always be willing to offer my opinion. The more that I go into these homes, the more that I feel them out, and I'm going to be as transparent and honest about those things as I can, because I would hope that somebody would do that for me. And I wish somebody would have told me sooner that huge houses is not where it's fucking at. I'm probably gonna lose money for saying that, but I don't give a shit. It's really not. I will be honing into and hopefully exploring all houses under 5,000 square feet, and I will be thankful for it. I'm going to be looking at homes that I would want before I try to sell them to other people. All right, stretch, ADD, tangent session over.